All right, no loading video today. Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Think Big podcast. This is episode, if I'm correct, we're episode 128, almost at 130, which is just kind of mind blowing. It's cool to get here every week to keep building on the week prior. Excuse me, I just got something in my throat, but I'm excited for tonight's episode, everybody. So if you're joining in tonight, what we're going to be doing is one of our favorite styles of episode, which is a Q&A. Wow, dude, Sam, I don't know what I like swallowed like right
I'm on
before
it. I'm on
getting
it.
on here.
You drink some water.
Dude,
Guys,
I need some water.
I've got water.
Where's my robot assistant? Where's my maid? What's going on?
Okay, guys. So excuse my voice. I am getting a little sick this past few days, coming off of an amazing event in town. So, but today we want to do kind of a fireside chat, a little bit of a Q&A. These are I think some of our favorite days is when we get to go and just answer your guys' questions very specifically. And I want to kind of test a new way of doing things. Marlon just left.
I'm gonna grab water.
He's back. Quick. He's back. Okay. And so I want to. He's gone again. I want to test a new way of doing things, and that is we're gonna take questions. So please just start dropping your questions in the chat. Today we're gonna go as long as we need to. We'll answer every question possible. We have questions that were sent into our DMs as well, so we're gonna answer a ton. We're going to be basically focusing on if they are a Marlon question or a Sam question, and if it's either or, that person's gonna absolutely run with it. So if you're struggling with mindset stuff, spiritual stuff, alignment stuff, no one on earth is better than Marlon. And if you are struggling with, I don't know how to grow past a certain point in my business, you have growth questions in terms of business, scale, optimization, tactical stuff, then that's always going to be me. I think there's not many people who are better than me selfishly when it comes down to that stuff, except for maybe Buff Business Jesus, Lord Emperor Hermosi. So let me do this, guys. Let me check on Marlon real quick. Give me 1 sec.
Sorry, dude. I am back.
He's back.
I just went into like a random coughing fit. I apologize, everybody, for that one. Appreciate y'all.
I'm stoked you are back. Okay, let's do this. Guys, so feel free to start dropping stuff in the chat. Marlon, I think you may have a bank of questions in your DMs. Yep. And then I have a ton in mine. Okay, you want to hit us off first?
Yeah, man. So let's see. This first one I got was, this is a good one. How many transactions did you do before you started buying investments? This one comes from Kurt. So shout out to Kurt for this question, because I think it's one of the fundamental questions to understand if you're going to be getting into investing based on what your avatar is. I will share with you guys what I personally have done and what I like to suggest to people entering into the space. Where for me personally, I wholesaled for about 18 months before I started buying and holding properties. At that point, I had done maybe somewhere between $100,000 and $200,000 worth of assignment. So I was in that ballpark, and I started to buy because I wanted to buy and hold a property. That was just like always a dream of mine when I got into real estate. Obviously, everybody gets into it for this search for passive income. I didn't know anything about bankability. I didn't know anything about getting mortgages. And so when I bought my first property, I found out I had no ability to refinance it, even though we bought it at a great price. And what ended up happening was, because I couldn't refinance, I had to sell the property. And that's actually how we started our flipping company. But the idea is I got experience under my belt first, and I got capital under my belt first, where I had a war chest, which made me comfortable enough to say, okay, I'm ready to begin owning property. And I have enough cash on the back end that if something were to go wrong, I would feel comfortable and secure, not needing to borrow any money to fix the problem. I can use my own money. I use OPM to this day for all the deals I do, but I still have my own capital reserves in the background. Like when I say I have no money, what I'm saying is I have no extra disposable income that doesn't have a job. But when I say I have no money, it literally means usually there's still at least like $100,000 sitting in the bank account nowadays. So that's my definition of no money. So how many transactions should you do before you start holding property? In my opinion, the answer I like to give is get to the place where you've done one of two things. Either if you're a full-time entrepreneur and you're stepping into real estate using something like wholesaling as your vehicle, I would say do $250,000 in revenue within a 12-month period, or get to the place where you've done consistently back to back $40,000 per month, 3 months in a row. If you do one of those three things, then I believe you would have enough confidence in your ability to create active income to then go into a position of holding an asset that may cost you. Assets, just because they're good cash flowing assets, does not mean that they are not going to eventually have what I call margin calls, which is a boiler's going to bust, a tenant's going to mess up the plumbing, a squatter's going to break in, a insurance claim is going to happen, and you're going to have to come out of pocket to fix the roof today, and insurance isn't going to pay you back for 5 months. These things are just inevitable when it comes to owning assets, owning real estate in particular. And so you want to be in a position where when one of these margin calls happens, you're never going to have to fire sale your property, or else you become our favorite lead source, which is a motivated seller. You're a tired landlord. You're somebody who doesn't have enough money to fix your problem. And that's why you end up selling the property at a discount. So my answer, do enough transactions where you're doing $250,000 a year in revenue, or you're doing $40,000 per month, 3 months consecutively. If you hit one of those two metrics, then if you desire to own property, you can begin to buy property. But this is also very critical. And I'm a big believer of this because it's saved my butt several times. Rule number one, you make your money in the buy. When you buy a property, even if it's a buy and hold, it's important for me that you buy with equity. I'm a big believer of buying with equity. Even if it's a creative finance deal, you still want to buy it with equity. You want to buy it for cash flow. If you do those two things, you're going to put yourself in a position to succeed long term. And it's not going to be a vanity metric of how many properties you own or the fact that you do own property. I do have an investor friend of mine who is pretty well known, and that investor and their partner picked up a little over 25 properties in a single year, all of them creative finance, all of them with no equity. I was hanging out with them a few weekends ago. We went to church together. We actually just met up at church and we went and grabbed brunch after. And we were having an honest conversation. And they said, look, it was a vanity metric. The vanity got to our heads. We got a little ego about it. People hyped us up in the community we were a part of. But the reality is all of these were bad deals. And now we've spent the last year and a half trying to get out of all of these properties. And we're finally down to selling the last one because none of these properties were bought well. But the reason we kept doing it was because people were telling us how awesome and how cool it looked that we were buying these properties, that we said we owned the portfolio. So it's really important that you make sure the math is mathing. And this is why last week, if you weren't here for last week's episode, we talked about the finances. We talked about money mindset, which, Sam, I don't know about you. I got a lot of people that ended up hitting me up after that episode saying, thanks for the conversation. That one, I think we need to do an episode like that again in the future. People really liked the talks around finances just from a fundamental financial literacy level. And so as investors, it's important that you financially have a strong foundation in active income. And then when you're going out and purchasing, as you make that transition, you're buying fundamentally correct, which is you're buying low, you're making sure it cash flows, you're making sure you have equity. Sam, you got anything different, or do you have a different vantage point on that? When should a person start buying property?
So I would say, because the initial question was like, when did we start first buying? I started buying. I'd probably already done 40 to 50 wholesale deals before I started buying my first set of rentals, and I think retroactively, a lot of people, they say that's, a lot of times people say they wish they started sooner in buying rentals. I think I'm one of those people. I'm like, no, I actually like when I started buying rentals because I had the absolute, because guys remember, like if I at that time already closed like 40 to 50 deals, the truth of that, or the inevitable side effect of that, is that I'd probably underwritten and transacted in paperwork that didn't go through thousands of deals. And so deals that didn't go through, they got contracted, they went into escrow, numbers didn't pencil. And so those 40 to 50 deals probably equaled 2, 3, 4,000 transactions that I was able to look at. And by the time I was there, I knew everything there was possibly to know about deal structuring, how to structure deals, how to get out of deals, how other buyers saw things. This is one thing that people, they miss. I think they missed the mark on wholesaling. Is good wholesalers. It's not about sales and marketing. Like we talk about that enough. I think one of the things that good wholesalers really do understand when they get into when they transition to buying rentals, or they start adding that as a tool in their tool belt, is they've already talked to the best, biggest, most liquid buyers in the industry, and they know how the best of the best think. And so for my 40 to 50 deals that I closed, I knew how hedge funds thought, and I saw exactly what their capital looked like, exactly what they did with deals. I understood fix and flippers. I understood turnkey buy and holders. I understood everything in between, and I saw things work and I saw things not work. So the most important thing for me was very much that I paid down my ignorance debt. Because the thing with wholesaling is you're in and out of a contract, and that's really it. You can lose your EMD, and that's more or less it, and some marketing spend. But when I got into the buying real estate game, I really started focusing heavily on understanding that this is not something, it's not paper that you flip anymore. Like, this debt will follow you. It is a big commitment. And so 40 to 50 deals in is when I started buying. And I think most importantly, I had the active income that I think was super solid. I don't even know if I had, 3, 4, 500,000 liquid in the bank at the time. But most importantly, what I did have was my skill stack as an operator was at this point phenomenal. And like, not compared to today, but for me then it was fantastic, which means that even if I did buy a deal and it did go south and I had to make monthly payments, active income and generating active income wasn't going to be an issue for me. So I always say for people, it's like ignorance, debt, and deal structure. You need to make sure you have that down. Underwriting, understanding exit strategies, understanding all these nuances to getting in and out of deals. But two, it's not even just about having the money liquid, because money liquid can go away anytime soon. You can buy a crappy deal a month later, you have illness in the family, and then all of your money goes towards that. And then your rental property, because like, you ever notice, Marlon, that bad things tend to happen all at once together, like right after the other.
Yeah, like when it rains, it pours.
Exactly. When it rains, it pours, right? And so if you spend all of your money on like family members' medical bills and you have nothing left over to put into like this property that absolutely sucks, it's like, then what? Then your $250,000 that you had in the bank account was like, it was worth something, but now it's absolutely worthless because it's gone. And so for me, I like people having the skill stack that allows them to make active income on a moment's notice. And so for me, I could have lost all my money, all my liquidity. And then if I had bills to pay next month, it wasn't a problem, because as an operator, my skill set had caught up so much. And so for me, generating an extra 2, 3, 4,000 to cover a mortgage payment per month was not a big deal at all. And so I would say those are the big things: is cover your ignorance debt on deal structure and acquisitions. I don't necessarily care too much about your liquidity at the moment, but I care about your ability to generate liquidity at a moment's notice. And so I think that's the thing that people miss, is that people, they're kind of sold on this pseudo lie of passive income. When you're in a W-2, you get out of a W-2 by buying rentals. I'm like, that's a horrible, horrible, horrible idea, in my opinion. If you go from W-2 to buying single family property, and like there's no in between where you amplify your money making skill set, the problem is your W-2 is your active income, and it's so very often it's not high enough. Like, you're not going to make enough in your W-2 to pay for your bills, your house bills, your family, and then to cover additional monthly payments on a property that's losing money. Typically, we need to increase that skill stack before we started taking on higher leverage. So for me, it's always when I decide to take more risks, and leverage is risk, I will only do it when there is a correlating increase in my own skill set or my company's skill sets or my ability to generate more income. So I think that's a little bit more of a Sam answer there.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. And I am going to throw this in there though, because I am one of the people that I see a lot of people who come from traditional education, traditional W-2 worlds. They've spent 20, 30, 40 years building their career, and then they're stepping into real estate. And some of them have these careers that they don't necessarily want to run away from, but they want to figure out how to add. And I'm a Kiyosaki descendant, right? So Kiyosaki is very big about mind your business. And by that, he means just make sure as you're going out and you're working day to day that you are building up your asset column, whatever asset your asset's going to be, if it's investing in stocks, if it's investing in real estate, investing in whatever asset class you choose to understand. And so the big thing for me is you need to have that proper game plan. It is so absolutely critical that you really get a larger picture. And to Sam's point, and I think Jackie's asking about this, so we might actually skip to Jackie's question because it's all encompassing in this part of the conversation about being able to generate liquidity. If you know how to go out and you know that you can actively produce more income should you need it, you are in a position to take more risk. You're in a position to go out and create the asset pile that will eventually allow you to step away from needing active income. You're always going to do active income, in my opinion, just because you don't want to be a useless sack of potatoes. And that's the idea of like sitting back on the beach is pretty dumb, in my opinion. You go on vacation for a week or a weekend. In fact, Sam, I don't know if you saw this. There was a post on social media on Instagram the other day that I came across from it was like a Business Insider. One of the founders of Loom, the video to screen recording application, which I love, I use regularly. They sold for over $1 billion, and he has been like in the biggest absolute funk / depression because he said like he wrote an email, like a public email that he ended up posting out to the world, basically saying, I no longer have a purpose and I haven't been able to repurpose myself into any projects, into any passion, into anything useful. And I kind of just been laying here on the couch and I don't even know why I'm writing this. So that idea of us doing this so that we don't ever work again is stupid. We just want the option to be able to work on the things that we find meaningful. So just want to put that out there. As far as coming back to Jackie's questions, because Jackie asked, can you talk more about the gathering liquidity at a moment's notice? Jackie, it's important that you have the ability to go out and know if I needed to make an extra $20,000 this month, an extra $30,000 this month in the next 30 days, can you do it? And do you have a proven track record behind you? Not theoretically can you do it, but have you done it before? Have you repeated the process enough times that you know you can duplicate it again going forward? When you're in that sort of position, you really can start to take your time with identifying good deals. You don't feel rushed anymore that I have to buy these bad deals, because people rush into bad deals out of this FOMO. When you are able to produce enough, Sam says this, right? You're able to escape the velocity of FOMO. You're able to get out of the gravitational pull of FOMO. And from there, you are a high level operator or a higher level operator. So make sure that you're developing skills that are highly leveraged. You're developing skills that are high producing skills. You're developing skills that are duplicatable and repeatable and that are trainable to somebody else. And you pay down the ignorance debt, which means the reason you didn't make $1 million last year or $500,000 or whatever your number is, isn't because you're not capable. It's because you don't know. There are skills that you don't know. And so you're paying this ignorance debt. You're paying this tax of, let's say if you made $100,000 last year, you paid a $900,000 tax because you did not learn the proper skills, go out and produce $1 million. That's where you want to put your energy and effort. So, all right,
Huge.
I think we covered that.
I want to
add any more thing to it before we jump to the next question.
Yeah, I want to hit on that. We have to make sure we go back to Sydney's question. So really quickly on that note, on being able to put yourself into a position where you have liquidity right off the bat, I'll be very real with you guys here. If you have no entrepreneurial skill sets, in terms of like, if you have no entrepreneurial skill sets, the only ability you have to generate liquidity is trading your time for money. And fundamentally, we all trade our time for money, but generating your skill set higher and higher. Like passive income, I think is a complete lie. I truly do think like there's nothing on earth that I think is truly passive. I think the closest that you could probably get is putting your money into a stock market. But as you all know, people who are in the stock market spend a lot of time. They may not spend a lot of time doing much, but they spend a lot of time stressing out of their freaking minds. So there is some time involvement. But I think what happens is the higher your skill set goes, the more leverage you have and how much money you can make with the time involved. And so if you don't have an extremely high-end skill set, the problem is you trade your labor in a very menial way for a one-to-one return. This is like getting paid hourly or a salary at a job where you sit at a seat for 8 hours and punching keys on the keyboard and then your boss gives you a paycheck. And so I think this is not the same for everybody. Not everyone may be uniquely geared at this, but I think Marlon and me and Alex Hermosi and Layla Hermosi and almost anyone that I look up to all agree fundamentally that if you are getting started and you do want to escape, you know, the rat race of a W-2, and you are focused not on buying assets right off the bat. And guys, like I actually fundamentally hate this is when people treat assets like your skill set is not your most important asset. It's
Agreed.
like people talk about, you know, I want to buy assets, I want to buy rentals, I want to buy multifamily. And then the people who do that and the ones who go broke subsequently are the people who like didn't develop themselves. They just went and got a shit ton of debt on a bunch of bad deals. They have no idea how to get the way out of it because they never worked on themselves. And when you look at the biggest players in the world, billionaires or 100 millionaires plus, Alex Hermosi, Hayes Morby, Logan Manzanares, who's close to both of us, these are all people who have lost it all multiple times. They have lost everything multiple times. And the funny thing about all those people is they tend to make it back much quicker. It's because the assets can come and go, but their skill set, right? Your skill set as an independent operator, that will never be taken away from you. And so prioritize that. And if you want to start with any one thing, my honest opinion is it is sales. Sales is the highest leverage skill set where that can truly materially change your life in the shortest amount of time. I hate this whole push that we've had. It is a very, very lazy push that I think is being sold to impressionable people. Marl, I'm saying this, I'm going in on this because I was at that event, right? 2-day event in Fresno, California, and I got to meet a lot of people. And a lot of people came up to me and they're like, Sam, I want to change my life and retire my husband and then pay off my mortgage. And I want to be an EMD lender to do it. And I'm like, you guys are putting so much on the line on a business model that fundamentally can be very flawed in a million different ways. And I care more about people like their skill stack. And it's like, you want to fundamentally, materially change your life. Look at what the vast majority of successful people have done for centuries. And there's something that is just so much more potent and higher leverage about your ability to talk to another human being in a sales capacity and get them to swipe a freaking credit card. And so I know this, Marlon, you and I have had this chat. We've given this advice to a close friend of ours who got themselves in over their head on some bad deals, and they're in a position where they need to dig themselves out. And you and I agreed collectively, we're like, dude, go get a sales job. Yep. It is your fastest way to make 10, 20, 30,000 a month overnight. And here's the key, with effectively no risk. Because when you're doing sales, all you have to do is go work for someone else. They generate the lead. They take the risk on the marketing. All you do is get on the phone and get people to sign on the dotted line or get them to swipe a credit card. And so for me, if I lost it all today, guys, and I didn't have the luxury of being in a position to like go and start a new business, I would go sell other people's stuff. I would go and wholesale again with other people's leads. I would go to someone who's selling a $20,000, $30,000 product. And I'd be like, yeah, let me get on the phones. Let me close your leads and I'll sell your 20, 30K pop as long as I get 10% or on a commission or something like that. It is your fastest, easiest way to get through a really rough patch. And it's a great insulator. So when the market does, and the problem with a lot of these physical assets, like real estate specifically, like we're seeing right now, guys, like real estate is very market dependent. And so, or the stock market is extremely volatile. We've seen that this past 2 weeks. And so when you have volatility affecting your asset in your portfolio, your assets in your portfolio, your skill set as an independent operator can be the things that can hedge against that. We see the people who go upside down and they go out of business in like 5 freaking minutes. It's because they have nothing. They just have these assets that were horribly over leveraged, that were bad deals, and they can do nothing in their own operator skill stack to generate an extra $5,000, an extra $10,000. So I think sales, but that was long-winded, but I want to hit on that. I want to hit on, let's get back to
Sydney's question. I saw Sydney drop the question up here.
Mm-hmm. So scaling wise, if I have a client for marketing on retainer, okay, I have a 9 to 5 in that limits how many clients I can take on. When is it appropriate to get a VA, and what's your favorite resources for that? Okay, so Sydney, I'm assuming, is in some level of a maybe like a TC business or a service-based business where she's taking on clients, and that is she has to provide a service for them or a deliverable for them, but she also has a 9 to 5 occupying her time or the operator's time.
Sydney does marketing. So she like creates content, digital content for business
Right.
owners.
And right now, if she's talking about getting a VA, then the problem may be that she's also delivering on the fulfillment, right? So she needs a VA to come and help take the workload off. So this is a really good question. I would say sooner rather than later. And I don't know anything about your business. I don't know anything about the service or the industry or how you could optimize it. I would say first and foremost, this is the first time I would fundamentally get this is actually the first time I've actually ever given this advice. It's because we're in a very unique time frame. I would say your first look at carrying the load with operational drag and fulfillment shouldn't be looking at a VA. It should be looking at AI first. I think that AI is more potent than it's ever been. And in almost all of my businesses, completely across the board, we are replacing all virtual assistants with AI programs. And so I think fundamentally, you'll probably get the most leverage out of AI first. And then if you have spillover, then you can bring a VA in. The reason why, and like both are extremely little, very, very little cost. AI is typically going to be cheaper. It's usually like 50 to 100, maybe $200 a month, whereas a VA at $5 an hour, $8 an hour full time can stack up. The reason why I like the AI is that you pretty much have to train it one time, and then it does whatever task you need it to do. Whereas the VA needs ongoing management and there's limited scalability there. But I would say as sooner rather than later, in my fundamental belief system around this, if you have a service-based business, is from the get-go, you should be training artificial intelligence or a virtual assistant on a bank of SOPs, which is your infrastructure of your business. That should be created as you are building your business. It is not one of those things where like a lot of people, they do this thing, Marlon, where they're like, I'm going to get started and then I'm going to do the thing and I'm going to fulfill on it. And when I start getting, when like, my job or like all these things I'm getting stretched too thin, then I need to bring on someone else, which makes sense. The problem is now you're trying to bring on someone else, but you don't have a bank of SOPs to train them. And so you have your 9 to 5, you've got your family, you've got your current business, which you already know you're being stretched thin on. And then on top of that, you're supposed to hire someone and train them and manage them and maintain them. It is a losing recipe across the board. Alternatively, if you build out your bank of SOPs or AI programs ahead of time, that when that natural constraint comes up, A, you'll be much better suited to handle it. And B, it won't be a big constraint because you've already forward paced ahead of it. So it's funny. I got this very similar question. Someone asked me, what is your feedback loop? This is on Instagram. They asked me, what does your feedback loop look like when you hit a wall, right? And then I was like typing out this answer, just like really getting in my head about it. And I realized, because I was like, when I hit a wall, and like 10 minutes in, I was like, I don't hit walls. We don't hit walls anymore because we're so proactive on building out our infrastructure in our logistics, in our personnel, in our AI, all of these things, that we actually eliminate the constraint before it appears. And we're basically always forward pacing. And if you do this right, you actually won't hit a wall. The reason why you hit a wall is you set up a system, right? You set up whatever the system is, the infrastructure, whatever it looks like, you set it up and then it grows. And here's the thing, every system has a natural constraint. Every single one has a natural hard constraint that you will hit, right? If it's not enough people, you'll hit a logistics constraint. If you've got too many people but not enough budget, you'll probably have a marketing constraint or a talent constraint because you can't afford more people. Every system will have a natural constraint. But if you're aware of that natural constraint ahead of time and you've already cured it by having a series of SOPs or infrastructure or talent that understands this, when that constraint comes up, you'll just like glide through it and you won't even know that it was there. And that's what we're finding a lot of right now that's happening with us. So I would say, right, as soon as humanly possible. And here's the thing, let's say you do want to bring on an extra person and you do want to hire and you do want to take that, managerial burden. You want to take that financial burden onto you. I'm actually, and I'm not telling you to do something super risky here, but I like when you do that, because if you want to take your business to the next level, make your business more than you. It is very easy for people to keep half-assing their business and not forcefully grow it when it's only affecting them. But when you've got to make payroll for someone, oh my God, then you're like, I'm paying you $5 an hour, 40 hours a week, and I'm going to pay you no matter what, whether you do work or you don't do work. So I better do my job in marketing and make sure you have work on your plate. And then this natural cycle will equal what? More money for you than if it was just you. So that's my answer.
I love that answer. I just want to second something. And it's actually that last thing. I wasn't going to add anything to this, but that last bit you just added in, Sam. about the pressure of having somebody come on your team and you no longer just working for yourself, effectively you're taking a risk. Sydney, if you're going to hire a VA, if you're going to bring somebody on board and sell them on the vision and now convince them to follow you, you are putting that's a risky situation to take on because effectively you're leading them somewhere that maybe you haven't actually even been to yet, but you're telling them, hey, trust me. And I believe that if you are, first off, if you're in your 20s, you should be taking as much human risk as possible in your business. You should be risking it all because at that such a young age, you can risk it all, lose it all, learn massive amounts of lessons while the amounts are low, and that will follow you throughout the rest of your career. The older you get, the scarier it becomes to take risk because there's more consequence and less time to fix it. So
Yeah,
take that risk.
Sydney's like 22 or something, right?
Yeah, Sydney's in her 20s. I don't know where in her 20s, but she's in her 20s somewhere.
She looks very young. So yeah, full send. Okay, let's get to the next one. Okay, so we had a little bit more insight there. Marketing for social media and Google Ads, favorite AIs for this. Okay, so Sydney, you're gonna have to DM me and I'll get you some more applied. And guys, oh my God, I've been wanting to say this forever. I hate unapplied advice. I hate when people are like, what should I do? And then the speaker just starts word vomiting without understanding the context of your life. So I appreciate the context and help me be more applied in my response. DM me. Because here's the thing. If you're doing Google ads, right? Google ads for what? For skincare? Are you selling leads? Do you have an agency? Do you have a PPL? Like, are you doing PPL leads? Are you doing for real estate wholesalers? Like that's, if you are doing PPL, for what? For law firms? Because running ads and running a business for law firm PPL versus real estate PPL, totally different ball game. Versus if you're doing SEO services and copywriting, all of these things you're going to have different answers for all of them. But if you're doing anything that is agency model oriented, there's a handful of guys who I do recommend looking into, and they're usually going to be the ones to be able to drive you to whatever program is going to be the best. Okay, let's go to the next one. Okay.
This wasn't a question. Just saw that Andrew said, Sam and Marlon just made my first 10K month in lending, taking advice y'all provide in this podcast. Just getting started. Freaking love that, Andrew. I love seeing these kind of comments.
Dude, I got to hang out with Andrew this past few days. And so him and I got to chop it up, which is pretty cool. He came out to the Deal Champs event. Oh, guys, Andrew actually was one of the people that I bought a ticket for. See, this is what happens when you guys watch Think Big. I will buy tickets to support my boys, the Deal Champs, Jason Strat, Dean, and also support the speakers who are all friends of mine, Pace Morby, Laura Morby, love Rich Wonders. He crushed it on stage. Dolph DeRuse, who I've had on the Origin Story podcast. And then, like, look at that. Come to Think Big. You win a free ticket. You get to hang out with all of us. That is so cool. Great dude. Bro, he's in Mammoth. He lives in Mammoth.
Dude, I know. Andrew's the freaking man, bro.
It's so cool. Okay, let's go to the next one. But, dude, props to you. Way to stick it out. Keep going.
All right, so I see Sashwat asked, which one is going to make big chunks of money as per understanding, either being a visionary or an integrator?
Ooh. Marlon, do you have a take on that?
I do have a take on this. So it's interesting. I'm not going to say it's necessarily one or the other is going to make big chunks of money. I think what happens is visionaries tend to be something like the lead singer of the band. They're the ones that you see the most. And so naturally, there's this idea that is the most valuable person. But it's kind of like watching the NBA. You see the basketball players, but the ones who actually make the most money are the owners who aren't even at the game. And so visionaries tend to get the spotlight. However, I know integrators who go inside. They are just assassins. They get inside there. They rip systems apart. They put systems back in place. They take a chunk of equity, and then they're never seen or heard from. And those are like high-level integrators. So really, at the end of the day, I'm not going to say being a visionary or an integrator is going to be the thing that makes you the most amount of money. It's going to be what's your actual game plan and how valuable can you be to the marketplace, regardless of whether you're a visionary or an integrator, because both of those positions, both characters can easily go into the marketplace and rip millions on deals. So, what really it comes down to what Sam mentioned earlier. It's, are you building your skill stack? right? If you're building your skill stack, that's what's going to make big chunks of money.
100%. And I'll say this, and I'll be real here with you guys. The most skilled operators, I think, are the ones who typically have the most options. But it just because you're skilled, no one's going to just pay you money to exist if you don't produce something for the ecosystem. Like you have to give to the world. You have to give to the ecosystem, and the exchange of money. This is known as commerce, is what rewards you for that. And I'll be honest here. I have a friend who is a very close friend, probably the smartest and one of the absolute smartest people I've ever met in my life. Like Robert Wensley level smart, like as smart, if not smarter than that guy. And that guy's a freaking genius human being. And this person, Marlon, for the last year and a half, I'm like, dude, you were one of the smartest people I know by far. Like he's a guy who can actually generate his own AI. Not like use a plugin, like create his own. And he to this day is worried about single family wholesaling and like buying a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. I'm like, dude, you've got a level 100 skill set, but you're potentially in the wrong opportunity vehicle too. And so very often what we see is a lot of people, and this is, I think I'm gonna commend myself a little bit. Very often I don't do that, but I think I've taken a good job of like increasing my leverage in my skill stack as an entrepreneur, my abilities, and then have a correlating like amplification of the opportunity vehicles that I chase. A lot of times we see guys get hyper skilled, and then they stay in like this low level vehicle that was like 5 years ago, that was where they were at. But if your skill stack goes to a level 10, but you're still in a level 2 vehicle, then it's like your income generating capabilities are going to be capped or limited. And so there should always be a correlating increase on both sides. Okay. And then we got some, I want to hit on this. We got some more, where was it? Sydney gave me a little bit more. Actually, before I get to Sydney, I promise you I'm going to get to you. Sydney said she's 27. Well, Sydney, you look young, and that's a good thing.
Who's got a skincare routine?
Yes. Yeah, yes. I remember one of my female friends, like I'll never forget it. I was in Vegas. She told me about she had like a 6-step skincare routine. I was like, there could be 6 steps.
For a second, I thought, because we were talking about like Sydney's age and like her looking young, and I saw the men's testosterone clinic pop up. I'm like, oh my gosh, she's just using testosterone to stay young. Crazy. I would have never guessed.
Yeah, we should stop commenting on this. But okay, so Sydney, she runs ads. It looks like ads for a men's testosterone clinic. So she's basically generating leads, I would assume, for this men's testosterone clinic, or maybe a roll up, or maybe a franchise of them that are all doing the same thing. So I love this. Okay, so because this is going to be, since it's a clinic, it's going to be brick and mortar. Okay, which means they're physical locations where people walk in, men walk in, they maybe get a series of blood tests done, and they basically want to work on increasing their free testosterone. So usually you're probably going to get men, I would assume 35 and up. Generally also people who frequent clinics that are not emergency clinics. These are people who are in a later season of life, but they're also usually a higher degree of affluence. Like people in the hood aren't going to go to, like, who are on the struggle bus are not going to the men's testosterone clinic. Like they're typically not. They got stuff to worry about. They got bills to pay. They're working. They're on the struggle bus. So when you deal with people who are like 35 and up, and they know to go take care of my free testosterone levels, you're dealing with people who have a little bit more money, a little bit nicer areas. So now what I'm helping you guys understand is who that target avatar may be. And so here's one of the things that is phenomenal for, especially for brick and mortar. Oh my God. Oh, I love this. Freaking love this. Okay. For brick and mortar, one of the most important things you can do is rank in SEO. If you can unlock that, you will dominate. You will freaking dominate. And SEO, for anyone that doesn't know, means search engine optimization, which means if I, in Fresno, California, which is where I'm at, if I've got a brick and mortar location for men's testosterone and I've got 5 other competitors in the city, right? I care about, if you were a man and you Google testosterone clinic or whatever else clinic in Fresno, I want my place to be the one that ranks number 1. Okay. I want to outrank all of those guys. So how do we boost free SEO? Because the problem, Sydney, with running ads is that your cost per lead is only ever going to go up. That is the issue across the board with all ad platforms, because you're renting space from other platforms like Meta or Google. And the problem is, as more competitors enter the marketplace, that digital real estate does become more expensive, which increases your cost per lead, which lowers your return on your ad spend. And then because they're brick and mortar, they don't have infinite scalability because you are limited to the amount of clinicians at a single location. There's so many constraints there. So how do we cure that or help offset that? We go into SEO. And the beauty of SEO is it's all about figuring out what other people search for. And one of the best ways to go into, especially using AI for this, is you can use ChatGPT or Grok or any of the other ones. I would actually like to maybe start with Claude AI first, because Claude is phenomenal for prompting. And what you basically want to find is this. You basically want to find for that avatar, a man in his 35 to 50 years old. I don't know when men start experiencing a drop in free testosterone. I probably should know this as a guy, but I don't. It's like, what popular search terms are they going to find, or they are going to search for when they are entering this moment of revelation in their life, right? Maybe they're lethargic, maybe they're tired, maybe they've got some issues in the bedroom, like all these things. Maybe they're having trouble keeping, as men get older, it becomes harder for them to maintain and increase muscle mass. Right. This is why it's like, guys, we see movie stars who are in their 50s putting on extra 20 pounds of muscle for a movie. It's like, and they tell you it's natural. Very difficult to do, especially when you're in your 50s and your free testosterone is gone. And so what I want you to do is figure out that avatar, figure out all the searches that person would make at that moment in their life. And then AI programs like Claude or Grok or ChatGPT can help you understand that. And then they'll give you a list. Go to ChatGPT and say, hey, what are questions that a man in his 40s going to search for when he is experiencing this symptom, this symptom, this symptom, this symptom? And then it's going to give you a series of topics. Awesome. What you do is you take that topic, right? I'm a man, I'm a 40-year-old man, and I'm having trouble putting on muscle. Awesome. You know what you do with that? That is now an article headline, and then you can tell ChatGPT to go, or Grok or whatever you want to use. I like ChatGPT. You can use ChatGPT to generate an article, right? A long form article answering that question, where it's basically giving all the things that a man could do, blah, 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 to help his free testosterone so he can put on more muscle mass, right? Eating more protein, blah, 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 blah. You get it. Now what you do is you take that, and there are SEO specific AI programs where you can take a transcription, an article that you had another AI program like ChatGPT, right? You pump it into an SEO, like, I'm blanking on the word here, but like an SEO enhancer. And then what it does is it basically rewords it to become SEO friendly. And then so it'll reword a lot of the phrasing in that article to basically format it in a way that is conducive to a Google search. And then what you do for that brick and mortar location is you add a newsletter section. Guys, have you guys noticed that if you go to the footer of any big website, any big company, even brick and mortar, like places that have been around for a long time and they have a solid online presence, you'll actually go to the footer of their, not even on the menu, not even on the header, go to the footer of the website. And I promise you, for the biggest ones, you will find a newsletter. And you're like, why the hell do they have a newsletter? Nobody reads newsletters. Nobody cares. Why do they have it? And you click on it, there's going to be 500 freaking articles in there. All that is SEO boosting. And so if you consistently do this, so have AI basically prompt the constraints that the avatar is going to hit, use AI again to generate articles based on each one of those headlines. You're going to have 10 different articles, put it into an SEO enhancer, okay? And that's going to like polish it, make it perfect. And then you add it to that brick and mortar's newsletter section and post one a day, once a week, and then one a day, and then two a day, and then three a day. And then over the course of 6 months, all you're doing is increasing your free SEO search and reach. And then as more people search for those articles in that town, if I'm a man in my 40s in Fresno, California, and I'm experiencing these issues, like I can't keep muscle mass, I'm lethargic, whatever the hell it is, and I'm searching for these symptoms, I click on your article because it most closely aligned with my search parameters. Guess what's going to happen to your website that's hosting that article? It's going to get boosted. If you do that over and over and over and over again, you will naturally increase your SEO. And here's the beauty of SEO, guys. It's freaking free. It just takes a long time to build it up. But if you build it up and you rank first, it is the most powerful thing. Because then when anyone searches Fresno, California testosterone clinic, you're going to be the first one that comes up. So I think that was a little bit more of a tactical answer. Did that help? I hope that helped.
I think it did.
Awesome. Okay. Marlon was like, dude, this is too much, too much, too much tech,
No,
too
dude,
much.
that's the perfect answer. I mean, it's true. Let's see, what do we got here? Sauce came back, said most of the time you talk about being resourceful, and you said if you're going broke again, if you'll do is resourceful and get everything from someone who have the things you can't afford. So I think you're asking effectively, like, yes, if we ever had to start over brand new from scratch, we didn't have a dollar, how would we go about rebuilding? I mean, Sam said it earlier, go and sell somebody else's product. That doesn't require a dollar. It just requires your time. It requires your hustle. If you're in real estate and you can't afford data, go and say, I will call your data. I will work your leads. I will close your deals for you. And I only want to be paid on the back end if I'm able to produce. So there's always ways, if you're willing to trade results, you can get money for simply guaranteeing results and then working your guts off to produce it. Andrew says, I'm seeing success in the PML business and raising capital. What is your advice to start scaling up and beginning to market my services? Integrate AI into the team? Question mark. I'm going to say this one's going to be a Sam question here.
The answer is no. Integrating AI is going to be a really, it's going to be a very systematic answer for a lot of things. In my opinion, it's going to be like a default answer for a lot of things. I don't think the vehicle of PML lending. Now, I don't know the specifics of your lending business because EMD lending is different than long-term private money versus short-term loans versus bridge loans versus like gap and fix and flips and what you're lending on and commercial. They're all different. And a lot of those businesses can very often look a little bit different. So I'm assuming you're just general private money lending. Very often to grow that type of business, you actually don't need expansive build outs. Like a really close friend of ours, who I'm not going to mention, they probably make over $200,000 a month in profit just in interest, but their entire business in the lending side is run by like 2 people and maybe a VA, and they're like big time. And so you typically won't need an AI program to help you right now. I think that if you actually want to grow, here's the key, guys. Growth. I want you guys to understand this. A lot of real estate people don't understand this because they're real estate oriented, not business oriented. But in the world of business, growth is usually equal to one of like there's 6 pillars in business, right? There is marketing, sales. I'm going to hit on those 2. There's 6 total pillars, but the 2 that matter are marketing and sales when we hear the word growth. And so marketing and sales are going to be your 2 biggest levers when it comes down to actually saying that I want to grow my business. Now you can grow your business with hiring better personnel, sure, but it's like that's a very like niche thing to do. You want to focus on more marketing, more sales. And so we did an episode, I can't remember which one. We did an episode where I screen shared and I basically share like a couple slides where I broke down exactly how I would approach growing a lending business in this ecosystem where everyone is basically just trying to fish for lending deals on Facebook, and how to basically do it better, do more of it, systematize it, automate it, and track the KPIs behind it. Andrew, do me a favor, DM me after this. I'll go through the history of the YouTube videos and I'll find which one that was and I'll send it to you, because my answer, like that entire video was basically, hey, if Sam Singh started a lending company today, this is exactly what he would do to destroy everyone and outcompete everyone in more loans, more deals, more private money, more everything. And AI wasn't the answer. It was just changing your approach to sales and marketing. So DM me.
Love it. Let's keep going here.
To Kurt. Ooh,
Kurt.
okay. So this is good. I like this one. Okay, so I niche down too much for closures and overages. Jesus, that's super niche. I need to add another lead source to figure out how to stack lists. I've tried using AI to help, but what list prompt should I try? I don't use AI for lists because fundamentally that is not a smart thing to do. It is a flawed thought process. A lot of times, guys, right now we're in the age of people thinking AI is the answer to everything. It is the answer to a lot of things, but this is another niche scenario where AI is not going to help you. AI is actually going to distract you because AI isn't a wholesaler. More importantly, AI never wholesaled, and AI, no matter which program you use, none of them were created by active wholesalers, who crushed it in wholesale. If you're using AI that was generated, like outside of Robert freaking Wensley, who's generating AI, like actual AI, not just white labeling someone's, like they're not like integrating open AI into go high level and calling it AI, like that's not developing AI. Rob Wensley is probably the only one who I would look at and what he's doing over at InvestorLift. But outside of that, I would stay away from AI. Here's what I like. I like foreclosures. I don't like overages. Why? Because that's micro niche. So I like foreclosure is a niche. Overages is a micro niche. And then what you care about is this. I care about TAM, TAM, which stands for total addressable market, right? So if you look at it in a county or in a state or in a market or hell, even the entire country, how many people are entering foreclosure? Okay. On real estate. Let's just say single family homes, right? Because remove commercial, remove land. Let's just say single family homes that are entering foreclosure, probably hundreds of thousands, maybe 10,000, tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands at any given moment. They're in some form of foreclosure proceeding. That is a niche with a solid TAM, a total addressable marketplace, right? An overage is way more niche. It is you take that niche and then you find people who have gone through the foreclosure process, they have lost the home, and then they're in this weird micro scenario where there may be more money to be reclaimed by them. And then you're dealing with like your TAM drops from maybe 100,000 to like maybe less than 10,000, honestly, like across the board, maybe even less than that. I'm not sure. It's a very micro niche. And here's the thing. I love basing marketing campaigns around niches. I don't go after micro niches. And so we crush in probates. I have a friend, I'm not going to name him, but he's phenomenal. He's really good at what he does. And so I love probates. We crush with probates. That is a niche. He's built his entire business around the micro niche of probates with extremely messy airship that have so much other zombie lean stuff happening on it that it can't be transferred to anyone. And then that is so ultra micro niche that he has to bring in attorneys to every single deal to even look at the paperwork to see if there's a solution. And that is so freaking niche. And that TAM is so freaking small that he can't just say, this is more trouble than it's worth. I want to just be able to move on. And so when you go down to the micro niches, the problem is you get caught in very intensive scenarios where you put a lot of involvement and also a lot of time, maybe some resources into. And the problem is there's going to be a point where it's like the juice ain't worth the squeeze anymore, but you can't just cut and move to the next one because there ain't that many more left to go because your TAM is too small. I want to go niche, but I want to have enough volume of niche that if the juice ain't worth the squeeze, cut your losses, move the hell on. So I like foreclosures. I want you to, I would say, and this is how I'm speaking towards my own business here, we go after other niches. And so we have what we call primary list types in the world of niche data. So pre-foreclosures, foreclosures, pre-probates, probates, divorces, and evictions. These are what I consider like the 6 core. I've talked about them for like a year and a half now on my Instagram, and no one freaking listens. I base my entire business on that. I am super niche. We have a massive competitive advantage in the marketplaces that we're in. And here's the beauty of it. If I wanted to forcefully grow my business, right, I could just go into another marketplace and unlock a meaningful TAM that will not run out in 5 seconds and then still have a competitive advantage in that marketplace. The problem with overages and things that micro niche is like you're going to add a new market, but you have another 100 leads maybe at a given time. And it's like, you can't substantiate a business on that. So I don't like stacking lists. I think stacking lists is stupid. If you have fresh data that is like very niche down, your speed to lead is your competitive advantage. And you only stack lists to polish old data. Like fundamentally, that's why you stack lists. Why would you stack like a vacant on top of a high equity on top of a whatever? It's because you have bulk data. You want to stack them to make it a little bit smaller and hope in the process that it's more motivated or distressed. Wrong thought process. We go after things that have the highest levels of distress. So that's county, courthouse, very niche stuff. And then, but the key is we want a competitive advantage. And how do we get that advantage? It's not by going micro niche like you can, but you're not going to be able to substantiate your business on that for very long. You will burn through that list very quickly, or that opportunity vehicle, or that TAM very quickly. You want to have a competitive advantage on speed. And so you can take like those 6 core lists and apply it to almost every market in the country. And you will still have a competitive advantage. You will make tons of money. You won't have to spend tons on marketing. And here's the key. You won't run out of volume. Like it's impossible. It's absolutely impossible. And so I think there's a beautiful segue there. And to be honest with you, if you do it the right way and target it the right way, you won't have competition. Like it's actually obscene.
Love that.
I went
This
deep.
isn't a question, but I just want to say something to this comment. Jackie earlier said wrong opportunity vehicle that resonates. I have like 18 vehicles and I'm trying to drive. Jackie, I think you already know we're going to tell you cut 18, take the 8 out of 18 and find one. Because if you have 18 vehicles, I don't think you're making the money you want to be making and that you deserve to be making. So bring it down to finding that one vehicle.
I want to hit. We'll get back to the question. I want to hit in this. Yeah, I could sense that. I have a sense in the force with Marlon. Marlon has a sense in the force with me. If I go too tactical, too deep, Marlon's he's gonna glaze. But then, yeah, if I hear too much mindset stuff, I'm just gonna pass out too. So
I like Sam's tactics, and then I'm just like, all right, just give me the one step I need to do so I can go do it. If I know the 30 things, I still got to go do step 1.
Yeah, that's a problem. I need to work on that because I'm like my brain thinks so like extensively. I'm like step 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm just like I gotta boil it down to the next.
I like it. You give me the 30-year game plan, but I'm like, all right, I need step 1. I gotta take action today.
Marlon, real quick, we're about up, and then we have a bunch more to get through. How are you looking on time?
I actually needed to run at 6 o'clock tonight.
Okay, guys, I think we're up. I think we're up right now. And so I appreciate you guys. We have a ton of questions that we can't get through. Do me a favor. Marlon, I think we could probably run this up again. And then, because I think we can unlock a sick amount of questions. Because sometimes I think we get very surface level questions. I think we're getting a lot deeper questions today that I think allow us to give more meaningful feedback.
I like these questions. I mean, you guys let us know. Like, do you like these fireside chats? Do you like the Q&As? I personally like the Q&As. In fact, earlier today, I had a request. I was talking to Victor, and he literally said, I want to see you guys. He's like, I love when you and Sam get on there and someone brings their situation, they bring their problem, and y'all deep dive it and you break it down right there on the spot for them. So, yeah, Jade's saying she loves it. I think we do more of these. And what I think would make it easy for us to do this for you guys, because we want to give value to y'all, is twofold. One, DM us your questions. If you have questions that have been pressing you, send them over to us. DM, write us a paragraph if you need to. We may not answer it right away, but this becomes the platform. This becomes the place where we can come back and answer your question in depth and give it the true answer it needs. Like you guys just saw, Sam basically just gave like a 30-minute masterclass to Sydney on like just her, like that was a masterclass. Like that was a $5,000 consultation right there that Sydney just got for free by showing up to the podcast. So that's going to be number 1. DM us your questions. Number 2 is going to be, if you are getting value from the show, we want to see this show grow. That requires you. Share this episode out with a friend. Share it on Instagram, share it on Facebook, share it on TikTok, share it on all the social media platforms you use. Text it to your mama, text it to your daddy, text it to everybody. Share the episode with a friend. Don't keep the value to yourself. So, guys, we appreciate you coming out here. Sam, you got any final words for the folks?
Yes. This is, by the way, guys, whenever Marlon asks me that, I just give you the advice that's on my head for myself. That's all I'm doing. This week, be very present with the people that you do all of this for. That's my reminder to me.
Love that. Guys, we'll see you back here next Tuesday for another episode.